Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Swiftie1989. We have video 16, George Washington versus Abraham Lincoln. So, two people considered to be our two best U.S. presidents in U.S. history going against each other. Now I know that Lincoln became president like nearly 80, 90 years after Washington did, but both dead, so yep. So, technically, our first U.S. president, George Washington, was not part of a party because he believed political parties divided the nation, and he believed that political parties should never become a thing because they divide people and put people into specific groups that whatever. So technically, on the map, he is going to be represented in blue just to know who won the state. But technically, there is no Democrat in this video. There is a Republican, by the way, because Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican U.S. president. So, yeah. So, yes, George Washington, technically, no Democrats in this video, but he's just going to be blue anyways. And then Abraham Lincoln. So, we have the map. We have the coin. I feel like you guys should know who each candidate is. Abraham Lincoln, former U.S. president. Presidency from 1861 to 1865, where he was in 1865. He got assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, freed the slaves, Civil War. Abraham Lincoln, boom, done. George Washington, father of the Constitution, father of the country, first U.S. president. I believe he won his first election in 1789 or 98. One of those years. Vice President John Adams, Lincoln's president Andrew Johnson, who will not become a very popular president. Washington is the only president in U.S. history to receive 100% of the vote in all states, both terms. So, that's it. Look, I don't think it received 100% of the popular vote because that's just not realistic. But I think he won 100% of all the states that were the current states. Because the only states when he was president both times were these ones, but not all of them, most of them. So, yeah, none of this over here was real. So, yes, we're using the modern day election map for the candidates. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's start. Again, heads to Republican, tails, Washington. Starting off with Alaska, 3 electoral votes going to Washington. Hawaii with 4 going to Washington. Washington with 12 going to Lincoln. It's confusing. Oregon with 8 going to Lincoln. California with 54 going to Washington. I believe California voted for Lincoln because I know they were a state when Lincoln was running his first time as president. I think they voted for him. I don't know. Nevada with 6 going to Lincoln. Idaho with 4 going to Lincoln. Utah with 6 going to Washington. Arizona with 11 going to Washington. Montana with 4 going to Washington. Wyoming with 3 going to Washington. Colorado with 10 going to Lincoln. New Mexico with 5 going to Lincoln. North Dakota with 3 going to Lincoln. South Dakota with 3 going to Lincoln. Nebraska's first district going to Washington. So, if you haven't watched my past videos, I kept calling Nebraska Maine by accident. So, Nebraska. Nebraska's second district, Lincoln. Nebraska's third district going to Lincoln. Nebraska altogether, all going to Lincoln. Kansas. Going to Washington, okay. Oklahoma with 7 going to Lincoln. Texas with 40 going to Lincoln. Were they a state in 61? Or 60? I don't know. Minnesota with 10 going to Lincoln. Iowa with 6 going to Lincoln. Missouri with 10 going to Lincoln. Arkansas with 6 going to Lincoln. Louisiana with 8 going to Washington. That's funny. Kansas is surrounded. Kansas is blue while everything else surrounding it is red. Illinois with 19 going to Lincoln. Indiana with 11 going to Lincoln. Ohio with 17 going to Washington. Michigan with 15 going to Lincoln. Kentucky with 8 going to Lincoln. Tennessee with 11 going to Lincoln. Mississippi with 6 going to Lincoln. Alabama with 9 going to Washington. Georgia with 16 going to Washington. Florida with 30 going to Lincoln. South Carolina with 9 going to Lincoln. North Carolina with 16 going to Washington. Virginia with 13 going to Washington. West Virginia with 4 going to Lincoln. I believe Washington was born in Virginia. Yeah, born in Virginia. Like our first 5 or 6 presidents were born in Virginia. So Washington won his home state. Also, fun fact, West Virginia and Virginia used to be one whole state together before they separated. I think same thing with the Dakotas and Carolinas also. I think Carolinas have always been separated, but Dakotas and Virginias used to be together. I know that. Anyways, Massachusetts with 11 going to Lincoln. Rhode Island with 4 going to Washington. New Hampshire with 4 going to Lincoln. Vermont with 3 going to Washington. Connecticut with 7 going to Lincoln. Oh, he's right there. New Jersey with 14 going to Lincoln. Okay. Abraham Lincoln won the U.S. presidency for a third term. If you don't know what I mean by the third term, is because in 1860 he ran, he won. Okay? Became president in 1861. Well, re-election season was coming around in 1865? 64? 65 or 64? '64. Yeah, 1864. And Lincoln wins his second term, but 1865 he gets assassinated. So Johnson carries out that term for him, and then I don't think he reruns for his own term. Not fully sure, but yeah. So Lincoln has won his third term. Anyways, Delaware with 3 going to Lincoln. Maryland with 10 going to Washington. You can't really be mad about this election because it's the 2 greatest U.S. presidents. Yet one owned slaves and one was against owning slaves. So that's a bit problematic, but kind of counterbalances it out. I don't know. New York 28 going to Lincoln. Maine 1st District going to Washington. Maine 2nd District going to Lincoln. Maine's altogether going to Washington. Okay, that's this U.S. election. George Washington versus Abraham Lincoln. To be honest, if this was a real life election, like in 2028, if these people are still alive, and they both served terms before, kind of like a, I don't know, Biden and Trump situation, where both of them served terms, but Biden's trying to run for a second term and Trump's trying to run for a second term or something. I don't know. Technically, they're both running for the third term, except for Washington finished his second term while Lincoln got killed before he could even start his second term. So that's that. To be honest, I did expect Washington to maybe do a little bit better than get 220. I expected this one to be very slim, but I don't know. Anyways, please subscribe, like, and comment. Suggest some candidates down below in the comments. I'm having a good morning, afternoon, night, whatever time of day you're watching this, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.